Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be reading Chapter 7 of SOULTIDE. Chapter content includes minor fire, calling food gross, disassociation, and doctors. We're trying a bit of a different format this time, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. Remember, if you enjoy the chapter, feel free to drop a like on the video, and hey, maybe even subscribe. And also, please drop over to AO3 and show Feathered Mask some love over there as well. And with that out of the way, please enjoy Chapter 7 of SOULTIDE, Stravage. Tango hated the outer world. It was cold. He wasn't allowed to build anywhere. Wasn't allowed to go anywhere. Probably worst of all, they wouldn't let him eat anything but meat mush. Trying to steal an apple from the kitchen had earned him a lecture from Nicholas about netherborn biology and virtual reality nutrition. Electronics hummed from every corner of the ship. Gray was the dominant color of everything. Polished utilitarian and metal making up most of the room. And he itched for some moss and nether vines to bring some spice to the design. There was a colorful plush lounge for the hermits when they were disconnected from virtual reality, but Tango had passed that up to sit by the control panels, cocooned in blankets while he waited. It gave him a unique view on what was happening on the server. A dozen or so video feeds ran on the different monitors, each one a camera following a different hermit. All of them with an icon in the corner marking them as muted. Occasionally, videos switched between different hermits by some algorithm Tango couldn't figure out. Each hermit, a friend, going through their daily lives, be that building, mining, working on a project, or relaxing, in a mob-proofed niche they had built for themselves. All of it was thrown up on this massive surveillance system. One video feed blurred with static next to Tango, muttering in German and typing at the control keyboard. Doc tried to fix whatever was messing it up. Tablet in hand, Nicholas occasionally ran in to reference the fuzzy screen before running back towards the room where the pods were kept. Through the blurry images and flashes of static, he could make out the marble walls of ZF space and make out Grian's wings from among the four figures present. One of the figures eventually flew away as soon as he noticed two more leave ZF space through the nether portal. Tango pushed aside his bowl of mush and picked up his phone. It was a few years outdated by now, but the doctors kept it charged for him, and he still found use for it. It came in handy for times like this. As the phone rang, waiting for someone to pick up the video of ZF space cleared up. Tango watched ZF tap at his communicator. The call connected. "It's Tango." "Tango!" ZF's voice, full of concern, came through the phone. "You're calling me from outside Hermitcraft, which usually isn't a good sign. Wait, is it a good sign this time?" "Well, it's not a bad one," Tango admitted. "What were you talking to Desert Duo plus Mumbo about?" "What? How do you know that? Where are you?" On the video, ZF whirled around, reaching for his crossbow as he searched around for an invisible prankster. Tango snickered. "How are you rerouting your call from inside Hermitcraft?" "I'm out of my verp, Zed," Tango confessed. "Watching you on the big screen out here." Nope, not allowed. That is a violation of privacy between hermits, and I do not consent." The video turned into static. Doc groaned, having just spent the past several minutes trying to clear up that feed, and he sank down in a chair, and he shot a glare at Tango. "Who's that I just heard?" "Please stop messing with the cameras," Doc requested. "We keep losing your footage." "Doc! What's the special occasion you're both up there?" "Well, Zuma's down here on the server." We're waiting on X, actually, Tango explained, leaning back in his chair. I'm up here because I'm co-admin, so I gotta be here for admin stuff. We scheduled a meeting with the people in charge of Empires about the magic glitch. It's supposed to start in a bit. You want to join us? Of course. Do you want me on a screen, or should I just listen in from whatever you're calling me on? It was a fair question, but one that Tango hesitated on. Normally, Zedaf would be welcomed into any meeting as an equal who deserved a spot at the table. That was just how things were. That was just how they did things on Hermitcraft. They had their individual jobs as part of the server, and access to the outer world was split. But no real hierarchy existed, no matter the situation. But Tango had never been part of the meeting with Empires. It just hadn't interested him. He had been made aware, of course, in case any issues popped up that required admin attention, like now. That all meant he had never met the admin of Empires, didn't know how many people they were bringing into the meeting, or how they would respond to a hermit connecting in from virtual reality. Tango looked at Doc, handing over the final decision to him. You can take a screen, Doc suggested. We would have had this meeting on a shared server to include everyone, but this issue extends beyond virtual reality, and an in-game meeting could be disastrous if the hardcore aspect is truly proximity-based. So just you two and Zuma are disconnecting? Does that mean the rest of the hermits are in the dark about this meeting? It's better this way, Tango said reluctantly. You're forgetting it's not safe for some of them to wake up, and it'd take too long for the others. Honestly, it's boring out here, and the food sucks. He poked at his bowl of meat and probably mushrooms. He couldn't tell what all the muddy, multicolored chunks were. Doc pushed the bowl back in front of him. You're a carnivore. Which sucks, Tango complained. I want elf cookies and pumpkin pie. The static-filled video switched targets, producing a clear image of Scar flying across the server, alone without his soulmate around. At the sight of it, Doc seemed to relax a degree, and the frantic video troubleshooting disappeared as he switched to typing notes in a text-filled document. Another video screen showed Grian and Mumbo walking through the nether hub, Grian alternating between preening his own wings and reaching to preen a miniature pear on Mumbo's back, which Tango stared at for a long moment. The tiny wings were new. From the camera's perspective, he couldn't tell if they were modified elytra or fabric. Zedaf, looking very pleased with himself and his face, he's half covered by his white crescent mask, popped up on another monitor. He had discovered where the camera was and now grinned right at it. His voice came through the speakers on the control panel instead of through Tango's phone. Ah, there we go. Took me a minute to remember how to do that. Sorry, Zedaf said. He paused. Is that really food? Yikes. Unfortunately, Tango ended the call on his phone. So this is a meeting about the soulmates thing, right? Yeah. That's why you're up there? You're an admin? Yep. Then why isn't Grian there too? Tango paused. Zedaf had a point he hadn't considered. Doc, yeah. Why isn't Grian here? He's Double Life's admin. I know Corrales never comes to any of these meetings, even if he has operator, but having Grian here sounds pretty important. A chicken who never spends any time out of virtual reality? Doc scoffed, not looking up from typing, even as someone else walked into the room. Please, the risk of reality shock is too great for him. Besides, he trusts Izuma to stand in for admin duties. Nicholas walked over to the control panel, dropped the tablet on the desk, and collapsed into a chair. Scar is stable. We panicked over a totem of undying. Hi, Nico. With a hissing sigh, Nicholas closed his eyes and massaged his temples. Hello, Zedaf. Grian should probably be woken up. I think he'd be fine out there. Zedaf bounced back on his hooves, and Tango could see that he was in one of the corridors of his base, a trophy behind him. You haven't seen him outside of virtual reality. Doc was stubborn. I have. It sounds like there's a story there. The scheduled meeting is in a few minutes. Nicholas cut in before the topic could deviate further. His low, nether-soft voice verged on irritation. Ren Bob is getting Izuma ready. Tango looked at the videos on screen and raised an eyebrow at the one centered on Scar in the shopping district. Izuma had joined him, and the two hermits talked without audio. Scar waved around a totem of undying as he talked, while Izuma tapped on his communicator. Izuma was definitely not going to be on time for this meeting. As if on cue, the main screen went black, text appearing with an image of a phone, notifying them that Empires had sent a request to connect. Right, time to act as admin. Tango sat up straight and tried to make the blankets cocooning him look less comfy, more professional, like he knew what he was doing. Nicholas moved the mouse over to the connect button, then paused, looking at the three hermits with a silent question. Tango nodded. Click. The call connected, and the screen presented the camera feed of another ship. A man with brown hair in central frame. In the corner, there was their own camera, reflecting back at them like a mirror, where Tango could see he didn't look professional at all. Zedaf had squeezed himself in there as well, partially covering Tango's image. Hello, said the man with a beard and brown hair. The pair of black wings on his back marked him as being a dragon origin. Sorry our admin couldn't come. I'm Pixel Riffs, standing in for the admin of Empires, and this is Jimmy. He gestured behind him, moving out of the way to show a couch with someone very familiar sitting there. Someone with bright yellow wings. As soon as he glanced at the screen, Jimmy jumped up and ran into the camera. He apparently hadn't changed out of his pod clothing, which matched Tango's outfit under the blankets, leggings, and a simple shirt. Tango, I'm so sorry about all the damage I took today, Jimmy blurted out. We're really not geared up on Empires yet, and then there was... It's all right, I handled it fine. Tango held up his hand as proof, almost expecting to see a gnarly scar there, but his skin was unscathed. I disconnected a few hours ago, and we already confirmed that the damage doesn't carry over when one person is out of VR. Jimmy mirrored his action, holding up his own uninjured hand and into the shared screen. Tango found himself smiling, and he forced himself to retain some semblance of seriousness for the important topic they had to get to. X will be here in a bit. I'm Tango Tech, co-admin of Hermitcraft. Co-admin? He thought he saw Jimmy mouth, surprise clear in his eyes. Right, not many people knew he had admin status. We have Doc and Nicholas here, and I don't know if you can see Zedaf. Hello, I'm in VR. Pixel Riffs nodded. You have a much bigger crew than us, he commented, sounding a bit daunted by that fact. On to the main topic. The glitch from the Double Life mod. 3 of our members are affected, and we need to know what's going on your side of things. Just 3? Doc asked. Everyone on Hermitcraft suddenly has a soulmate. You haven't noticed it spreading on Empires? I heard about that from Jem, but no, just 3. Names? Tango answered that, rattling off Jimmy, Joel, and Scott. Their registered VR names are different. Not Jem or false? Doc pressed. Has anyone heard if they have soulmates as well? A pause. Slowly, Tango shook his head, and he had honestly been too caught up in the echoes of a burdened-down home to think beyond himself and the arson chaos duo. Jem didn't mention it when she and Scott came to me, Pixelriff said. They're the only 2 hermits who weren't on Hermitcraft when everyone from Double Life returned. Their virtual reality pods are also not on our ship at the moment, Doc explained, delivering pointed evidence that made Tango shiver with the implications. Hold on, Tango blurted out, praying he was wrong. You're not saying that there's something wrong with our pods, are you? That'd mean we'd have to disconnect everyone. Doc hummed, his expression unchanging. It could be that the Hermatrix server tower is corrupted. Double Life is one of our servers, after all. Screw the blankets. Tango shot to his feet to bark. Same thing. We can't have that many players waking up at once. Do we even have the supplies and setups ready for Scar and Cleo? What about XB? How close are we to a station we can resupply at? A blanket was dropped over his head, stunning him into silence. You need to chill, man. We don't need the whole ship lighting up. Renbob's voice came from behind him, and a hand pat him roughly on his head. Tango smelled smoke. No fire tick out here. That really put a damper on his flame. Another reason he hated the outer world. The sound of another pair of footsteps, followed by Azuma's voice. You can go lie down in the lounge if you need to, Tango. I'll take it from here. Tango pulled the blanket off his head to shoot a disgruntled glare at Azuma, the other admin looking as unprofessional as him, still in his simple pod wear of shirt and leggings, with the addition of a mask to breathe through. But his posture gave off an air of composure that Tango didn't have at the moment. He took a deep breath, sighed loudly, and gestured to the screen. This is Pixelriff's standing in for admin, and Jimmy, my soulmate. Tango introduced them, and Zed wanted to be here. Just Pix is fine. I'm the admin of Hermitcraft. Azuma nodded at the Empire's pair. Sorry for being late. Did I miss anything? Do you think the Watchers are targeting Hermitcraft in Double Life? Jimmy blurted out. Doc looked toward the ceiling, with the same expression he had whenever Grian managed to break his redstone. Azuma was the first to speak. I definitely missed something. Just wondering, but where is your admin? Well, this is awkward, Zedaf mumbled. Tango managed to turn his laugh into a coughing fit, when he was standing next to the 2 doctors who were monitoring him for the slightest complications, was not one of his best ideas. Nicholas and Renbob were immediately on his case, ushering him to sit down, putting an oximeter on his finger, and checking his temperature. I'm sorry about him, Pixelriff said. Jimmy, Watchers don't exist. They're just stories. But you said... I called the glitch a Watcher because that's what impossible glitches are. I was telling Scott and Jem that this glitch was probably out of my field of expertise. Tango tried to calm him down on his cough, laughing, and hide his grin. Watchers were real, and he knew that very well from Zedaf, but there was no way he could come out and say that. At least Pixelriffs was being patient with Jimmy in his explanation. Otherwise, he might have felt protective over his soulmate. Where's Flip? Azuma asked again. I've always talked to Flip when it came to server relations. It's not safe to wake him. Pixel Riffs said quickly. Azuma pressed further. Do you have a co-admin? Someone Flip would trust to stand in for him? Do either of you at least work alongside your doctors? Pixel Riffs laughed sheepishly. We're a small luxury server, he explained. We have a captain who pilots the ship and 2 caregivers. I chat with the outer crew sometimes, but, well, we paid for our spots here. We paid for high-level care and a server to be run entirely by Flip. We're not techs. Doc hissed, turning away, to keep the mic from picking up his muttering. This is what we get for partnering with an entertainment ship. They're lounging in a hotel. We're running an academic venture. There had to be something that would get this meeting back on track. They had to come out of this meeting with something productive to make dragging him out of virtual reality worth it. Tango gritted his teeth together, and he pushed away from the medical instruments, moving to stand in front of the control panel. Jimmy. On the other side of the call, Jimmy jerked up at his name, halting from where he was starting to slink away. Tango wouldn't let him escape back to virtual reality so soon. There was a detail the others had missed. It was nagging at him. Jimmy was disconnected from virtual reality. What made that detail so important was that Jimmy didn't have any obvious psychological trait that lent to an easy transition between virtual waking and sleeping. Tango, Doc, and Azuma had ancestry that made them predisposed to a low risk of reality shock. Nether, Creeper, and Void, respectively. Pixel Rift's dragon ancestry was obvious, and that was another origin, with research backing the likelihood of avoiding reality shock. That made them all the first choice of whom to wake up in an emergency, or who would routinely act as the bridge between realities. However, other than origin advantages, someone could grow used to disconnecting frequently. If Jimmy fell into that category, then he had to be useful around a ship. What are your qualifications, Jimmy? For a moment, Jimmy didn't say anything, his mouth moving with no sound. Outside of VR? Jimmy asked. When Tango didn't nod, he fumbled. Well, I have some medical training in pod care on Empires. I'm the sheriff. I make sure everyone's following the law, but that's perfect, Azuma declared, and with a decisive nod. So, to really get started, how about we get everyone on the same page? We have an issue where everyone on Hermitcraft and Double Life are linked in pairs in injury-sharing bonds, all stemming from a mod on Double Life. Anyone have anything to add? Oh, do me! Zedaf hopped up and down in his little screen on the monitor, waving his hand frantically until everyone looked at him. There is one known linked trio on Hermitcraft. The glitch looks more like magic than coding. You might switch between hardcore if you get in range of your soulmate. There's a bit of magic overlap between soulmates, and there's no injury sharing when one soulmate is outside of VR, and I think that's everything. Pixel Rips leaned closer to the screen, dappled eyes blinking wide. Sorry, what was the middle one? There's a bit of magic overlap between soulmates? No, the other thing. Their nonsense is getting on my nerves, Doc mumbled before turning to the screen. Zedaf and I have a theory that if soulmates come within a certain distance of each other on a server other than Double Life, their hearts will turn hardcore. We have begun warning hermits of this possible complication. Hold on, Jimmy cut in. How many people are in hardcore now? 7, Azuma answered, including myself. A couple hermits already tested going over to the Double Life and back, and they're not in hardcore there, but it also didn't resolve itself. The non-hardcore hermits weren't newly hardcore when they returned. It sounds like there aren't any soulmate pairs on Empires, so you don't have to worry about that. However, it means we can't risk setting up another server for an inter-server meeting in VR. Tango bit back a comment about the possibility of the Hermatrix's network being corrupted. Azuma continued, "For now, we'll have to meet like this to keep us in contact. Jimmy, are you able to talk to people in the outer world when you're in VR?" No, but I can set it up." "Great. Have someone send the Hermatrix a message anytime you want to talk. One last thing," Doc added before anyone could say goodbye. Tango raised an eyebrow. With Doc's patience waning, he had thought Doc would want to be done with this meeting as soon as possible. "Do you know if you have any spare virtual reality pods, specifically Elytrian style?" Doc requested. Pixel Rift started to answer. "I can ask." "We do," Jimmy said. He backtracked, glancing at Pix. "Well, I'm pretty sure we do. Catherine is using the transformation magic this season, so she doesn't have wings right now. She should be using a standard verb, right?" Pixel Rift hesitated. "I think you might be right. We'll still have to ask." Doc nodded curtly. "Good. Get back to us with the model and condition, and we'll sort out transferring it to our ship in a few days." "Is Grian okay?" Jimmy asked. "I mean, unless he was lying to me, he's the only player with wings on Hermitcraft." Doc shot him down with a glare. "That's private medical information." Tango's gaze drifted to the monitors, still displaying video feeds of his friends. Grian was still with Mumbo, now joined by Scar. The three of them in the overworld next to a rapidly growing chest monster. Mumbo placed down a block of obsidian, and the other two bolted. Little red wings poked out of the back of Mumbo's red sweater. Little red wings that puffed up and ruffled like real feathers. A thought hit him then, wondering if he could see the wings here, too. If he walked into the pod room and found Mumbo's pod, maybe he would see little red wings not only in Hermitcraft, but in this outer world they called reality. Tango, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders, found himself walking there at the end of the call with Empires. Grian's pod was hard to miss, upright instead of tilted, larger and set in a lonely corner of the room all to itself, next to the server tower that held the world of Hermitcraft in its metal walls. He knew he wasn't allowed to touch the tower, being a fire risk and all, but he couldn't resist dragging a finger over the bright lights, imagining the whole reality it held. Rolling hills, rolling mountains, massive monuments, precious memories, and lives bursting with beauty and meaning contained within. It hosted smaller servers as well, ones with sprawling redstone tests, artists' palettes, modded games, and single-player escapes. For some reason, he thought he would feel some sort of power or static aura from the tower, but it just felt like normal metal and plastic. Nothing special about it. Eyes closed, floating in stasis, Grian watched over the server tower like a benevolent angel. Tango was tempted to tap on the glass, but he knew that would get him yelled at, so he didn't. He gently put a hand on the glass instead, almost reaching for Grian's hand inside. He didn't know what made him want to touch everything. It was a weird itch to find out if things felt any different in the real world. A sound like a creeper hiss made Tango jump and whirl around, startled into a fight reaction. It was the sight of a creeper kit in the doorway that made him drop his fists with a sigh. "Oh, hey there," Tango offered, and what he hoped was a reassuring smile. "Sorry, I'm just a bit jumpy right now. I didn't scare you, did I? I'm Tango." The creeper child didn't reply. A stuffed polar bear in his arms and he stared right back at the smile. The kit repeated the hiss, then giggled when Tango tensed up. "There you are." Doc walked into view out of the open door and scooped up his son into his arms, making softer hissing sounds as he did so, which were probably supposed to be soothing. But Tango did not feel soothed. The noises made him think of creeper nests, which were arguably the farthest thing from a soothing experience he could imagine. "Come on, it's past your bedtime," Doc murmured, walking away without a glance at his fellow hermit. "Good night, Tango." "Night," Tango called back a bit awkwardly. The pod room was quiet. Tango tried to shove his hands in his jacket pockets, then cursed when he remembered he was still in his pod wear. He needed to change if he was going to spend any longer out here. But first, there was one thing that had been nagging at him since seeing it on the video feeds. He walked through the rows of hermits, scanning the faces until he came to Mumbo's pod. It was a little beat up, with a few more scratches than Tango remembered. And he poked at a dent he was sure hadn't been there before. It looked like it had gone for a bumpy ride in the time Mumbo had been away from the Hermatrix. One of the health lights on the side was yellow. Behind the glass, Mumbo had been rolled onto his side, exposing his wings. Tango grimaced at the sight of them. His knowledge of wing care was minimal, but he had seen healthy wings up close, Zedaf's, Grian's, and more recently, Jimmy's. These wings didn't look like that. "Ah, Tango, you're in here." Tango jumped at the voice, but it was just Nicholas. He stretched his arms out and sighed, trying to calm down his jumpy nerves. The doctor watched him with a curious expression. "Are you all right?" Nicholas asked him as he brushed past to check on Mumbo. "Yeah, just thoughts, I guess. When can I plug back in?" Apparently finished with his check, Nicholas gestured for Tango to follow him out of the pod room. He tapped on the glass of his own pod on the way out. Being of nether design, Impulse's pod and his own were visually striking. The main body made of foggy quartz inlaid with flecks of red. The foam inside had been removed, and Tango caught a whiff of cleaning chemicals as they passed. "Actually, we'd like you to stay outside until morning. It'd be good for you. We're disconnecting everyone to run diagnostics on the network tonight, so this is a good opportunity." "You're keeping everyone asleep, right?" "Most. A few will wake up and keep you company." "And you'll make sure Zed's okay?" "Yes. Are you sure you're quite all right, Tango?" "What? Can't I ask about my friends?" Tango deflected, bristling. Nicholas's dark eyes flickered up and down on him right before the doctor snatched one of his hands to examine. "Hey!" Tango protested, yanking his hand back. After a second, he offered his hand up anyway. "Geez, warn a guy next time. You're way too used to unconscious players." Green fingers tapped and prodded at his hand, then steadied over his pulse on his wrist for a moment. Then they continued palpating his skin, and Tango could almost get lost in the feeling, the warmth reminding him that Nicholas also had nether ancestry. Something hard and cold pressed into his palm, and Tango looked down to see a bright red and white swirl there. "Candy," Nicholas explained the obvious. "You seemed stressed, probably disassociating. Good night's sleep should take care of it. At least it wasn't some sort of meat treat." Tango tossed the peppermint in his mouth. It tasted as vibrant as it looked. Nicholas gestured for Tango to go into the lounge. "Just relax. Please tell us if you need anything, and if the feeling comes back, I want to know." The door closed behind him, Disassociating? Yeah, sleep's probably what I need right about now. Tango tucked his hands behind his head and stared down at the floor. When he collapsed on the couch after changing into pajamas, a pillow and blanket already laid out for him, he longed for his wool bed in his base. The word disassociation echoed in his head, and he couldn't help but laugh. He had disconnected from virtual reality, and now he was mentally disconnected from actual reality. The irony was bittersweet.